בקרוב תזרח השמש, נדע ימים יפים מאלה, הלב נלחם בדאגות. כולם יחזרו הביתה, נחכה להם למטה, הלוואי נדע בשורות טובות. כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד, אפילו כשקשה לראות. כולם ביחד, אף אחד פה לא בודד, שישרפו המלחמות. עם ישראל חי, אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים. עם ישראל חי, בעליות בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא אבדה האמונה. עם ישראל חי, אור ארצי נחלתנו, לא תיפול כעת רוחנו מסביב ברזל של חרבות. ויונה תפרוס כנפיים, התקווה בת שנות 2000, עוד נצא לשיר ברחובות. כי עם הנצח לעולם לא מפחד, אפילו כשקשה לראות. כולם ביחד, אף אחד פה לא המלחמות. עם ישראל חי, אם לא נשכח. עם ישראל חי, בעליות בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא אבדה האמונה. הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה. תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא אבדה האמונה. עם ישראל חי, כי עם ישראל חי.
Shalom, shalom, folks. Shabbat shalom, shalom to may God bless you. God be with you guys. How you guys are doing today? I hope you guys are doing very well. It's been a long time, at least 2 weeks right now, because I wasn't. I was here, but I was a little bit busy last week. I couldn't able to post anything, but today I'm here. Today was a very good day and a little bit of warm weather, no rain, nothing. It is a quite good weekend. I hope you also had a good weekend and good weather wherever you are and in whatever the situations you are watching in. All right, guys, and as we start our session, I just wanted to just you know uh, give my disclaimer and also start with my the recap of what we did all these days. As we all knew that this is a very sensitive subject, and I know that people will be most of the Christianity people may not like this, but I got to say this one. Truth is truth, no matter what, wherever we are, whoever we got to learn something, we got to know something. If you have any difference of opinions and difference of ideas, or definitely you are welcome to share. But this is what I found in me. I found and I went through, I gone through several years of researching, and I came to know what is the truth for me. That's why I'm presenting. It's not a must, and that you should follow me or you should observe this, but you can try your best to find out the truth, and also you can learn a lot from here how to find out those things, and also how there are certain things that you may not heard before or learned before or studied before. This could be an kind of a little bit of eye opening for you. I am gathering a lot of information for you guys to explore more on your biblical knowledge and biblical studies. That I might be a little bit help of you guys, a little bit of a resource, so it's not an for targeting any group or any person or any individual. All right, guys, having said that disclaimer, I wanted to say that we started this subject of Messiah. Is Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, or is Jesus is the Messiah for the world? And we talked a lot of subjects in this matter, and we were discussing about the Gospels comparisons of Matthew and Luke regarding the birth of Jesus. I think even from the last session that we had, and I would like to explore more on that today also, as we all knew that even though we have 27 or books in the New Testament, only two books, two Gospels talks about the Jesus birth or birth of Jesus, and none of the other Gospels never talked about birth of Jesus at all. Mark and John never touch it. It's about Matthew and Luke. And as we all know that these two gospels, many would say that they both are same, but actually they both are not the same. There are tons of differences between Matthew gospel and Gospel of Luke. Um, Matthew genealogy is totally different from Luke's genealogy. At one point, I told you guys that Luke, why he didn't agree or accept what Matthew's gospel, why he didn't accept whatever Matthew said, why he wanted to have a separate genealogy totally differing from Matthew's. If he accept on those Matthew's gospel, he shouldn't have tried to do a new genealogy process for Jesus in his book. In his book Luke, the Gospel Luke, but looks like that Luke wants to be different. Luke wants to express his product wanted to sell his product better than Matthew, so he went and wrote a completely totally different view, almost like it refers all the Greek gods and Greek goddesses and Greek culture. He picked up from everywhere and introduced into the Gospel of Luke. That's why we have a lot of different narratives in the Gospel of Luke we see other than Matthew's. So let's go dive in there and see what's going on here, and let's try to learn here. So Matthew genealogy of Jesus through his father broken down into three groups of 14 generations. We already said about this one. Almost like a 42 generations were mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew 1:17 says that there are 14 generations from Abraham to David, and then 14 generations from Babylon to exile, and then 14 generations from Babylonians to Messiah. So Matthew wanted to say Jesus was the Messiah who came on the right time, and he was a 14th generation from David's genealogy. So Matthew wanted to give an account, or he wants to strongly prove that Jesus was the Messiah at the time. So he was writing and connecting all these 14 generations, and his genealogy goes up to Abraham and then David. So what happens? Like, it's a 14, 14, 14 generations, totally 42 generations. Luke includes his gospel, chapter 3, was quite about a different way from Matthew. You know, let's see. Let me tell you one thing. I was thinking something, and in between I got this Luke coming up in. Um, the way that Matthew wants to represent 14, 14, 14 into three groups, and then he's emphasizing on Jesus was the Messiah from the David's genealogy, and that was the quite amazing. Like Luke includes in his gospel in chapter 3, Luke, it was quite different about Matthew. Luke's genealogy is a lot longer than Matthew's genealogy and traces all the way back to Adam. Not only is stopped in Abraham like Matthew, it goes up to Adam. Luke includes a number of generations from Joseph, from Joseph to Abraham, from father of Jesus, Joseph, to Abraham. But there is a great significant um, different in this genealogy. First of all, this is not separated into 14 groups like Matthew's genealogy. Luke didn't do that. But when you see Luke's generations, it goes up to 7 and 7 and 7s. But in Matthew's, it's like 14 and 14 and 14 groups that Matthew gathers in. So, Matthew tells that the number of generations from Jesus to Abraham was 42. Luke gospel says that there are almost like 54 generations from Joseph to Abraham. I mean, like Adam. So it's obvious, so obvious that there are what I can say, people and these genealogies are different from Matthew genealogy and Luke genealogy. There are totally lots of different people involved in this one. So you can see the differences from Matthew and Luke in genealogy itself when it goes up to Adam. Luke was going. For example, the father of Joseph in Matthew, it was Jacob. Unlike Heli in Luke. Luke talks about the father of Joseph was Heli, but in Matthew it talks about it was Luke. Even if you see, I think Matthew chapter 120, I believe that it is mentioned there. So so Luke used Matthew's gospel to write his gospel. What's happening here? Matthew has a secret or purpose or of the meaning here in genealogy. Matthew was trying to fix something here. So why he grouped into 14 into 14 into 14, 42 generations, three groups of 14s, and there is something that he wants to insist that the Messiah should come from, as per the Bible, as per the Bible prediction or prophecy, a Messiah should be coming from genealogy of descendant of David or David. So Matthew is kind of doing something here. What he is telling, that why he is focusing on David, because David, the name David is like Dalet, Waw, and Dalet. In Hebrew, three letters. Dalet as a 4 numerical value, and the Waw as a 6, and Dalet as a 4 numerical value. When you add this Dalet, Waw, Dalet, it's like 16. So, 14. So, this, how do you read that Dalet, Waw, Dalet is, you will be reading it as David or David. So there is a numerology, or there's something like a numerical values attached to the Hebrew alphabets, which is called the gematria. So the David's gematria is 14. So Matthew is calculating this 14 into 14 into 14 generations. Exactly, Jesus was the 14th after Babylonian exile coming from. So he is from David itself. Even Matthew, in one of the Matthew verses, it also talks about father of Joseph was David. So Matthew want to make sure that Jesus was the Messiah, when you compare with the genealogies into 14 and 14 groups, that's what David is trying to do, that one. So the group genealogies into 14 to say that Jesus is the Messiah who came to the true genealogy of David, which fulfills a prophecy. Matthew 1:20, angel appeared to Joseph and addresses Joseph um, Joseph as son of David. If you go and read Matthew chapter 1:20, an angel appears to Joseph and it tells Joseph that Matt, father of Joseph is David. So again, look at that. How Matthew wants to insist the David as the genealogy father for Jesus. So when Joseph found Mary pregnant, Matthew says Joseph tried to divorce her. That means when Joseph was seeing that Mary was pregnant, Matthew writes the story that Joseph wants to divorce who? Mary. But not in Luke. This incident is not mentioned in Luke. See, there are so many things in this birth narrative. Matthew is so different and Luke is so different. Totally different. The things what Matthew is not writing, you will see Luke will be giving a lot of information. Same way in Matthew also. How did Joseph and Mary figure out like Jesus or the Messiah would be, they're going to give birth to Messiah. How they figured this out? According to Matthew, an angel name was unnamed, like there was no name was given when the angel came to Matthew, but he was talking to who? Joseph. An angel comes in and he was talking to Joseph. Wherein Luke, totally different. The angel name was Gabriel, and the angel was appearing to who? Mary. Look at this. Both of the authors are writing the same incident and same event, and it is totally contradicting. How come, there could be some changes, like, maybe Luke knows the name of the angel, that's okay, or Matthew didn't know the name of the angel, that's fine. But where else, angel in Matthew, that angel meets with Joseph. And here in Luke, the angel meets with who? To Mary, and his name is Gabriel. This is totally contradicting. It's not correct at all. How would you say this one? Like, even though you can say several things, there is not only one angel in the heaven, there are several angels. One angel might have met Joseph, and one angel might have met Luke, like Mary. So, what is the problem? And maybe Mary's angel is known as Gabriel, and Joseph, something is really, when you narrate or when you give a narrative of any event, especially if you're talking about God, when you're giving it, it has to be unique. It has to be very unique, because if it has multiple versions, then it creates a lot of doubts there, because which is the true one, which is the right one, which is the correct one, why they're doing all these things, why they would want to prove Jesus was the son of David or he is from the genealogy of David, why Matthew was insisting on these 14 groups. So why the same way, why Luke took this female genealogy, or decides that's what they talk, right? So it creates a lot of problem when the storytelling is, if it is not unique. Probably, it might have went through so many places, it might have gone through so many places, then it got corrected something, and it is coming up here. Of course, when Luke wrote the book of Luke, right, Matthew book was already existing. The story of Matthew was already being circulating in the communities. So he already knew what to, concisely put in his book, how to make this book more elaborate, more attractive, more readable, more sellable, basically, to all the public. So Luke totally differs and writing so many instances, which is in terms of God and the unique thing, I think I would stick to one story with a consistent consistency and also with all the even the factors whether it is true or not. But I wanted to have those events to be narrated in a right way. That's what we are seeing here. So both ways, angel appears to Joseph in Matthew, angel appears to Mary in Luke. Okay, so Matthew tells that the marriage wasn't consumed until after the birth of Jesus. But in Luke, it wasn't mentioned. Look at this one. Matthew tells in his book that the marriage wasn't consumed until after the birth of Jesus, because you remember that when when Joseph came to know, Matthew wrote in his book, in his gospel, when Joseph came to know that Mary was pregnant, he didn't accept it. He wanted to have a divorce, but that story wasn't told in Luke, totally avoided. I don't know what reason, but that been totally avoided. And the consummation, the marriage was consumed only after the birth of Jesus in Matthew's story, whereas in Luke it never mentioned at all. I do not know why he didn't do all those steps, all those things. He didn't mention totally. Luke didn't mention that at all. Okay, so Matthew tells that the marriage wasn't consumed, right, until after the birth of Jesus, but in Luke it wasn't mentioned at all. Also, if you see that the runs, the Matthew and Luke were talking about the Jesus, and he was exiting to Egypt and coming back. Matthew gives one story, and Luke gives totally a different story. Matthew tells that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and they had to they had to to fly in the sense that they had to just run away to Egypt, because King Herod was lurking for them, because he wanted to kill all the babies under the 2 years old. All the male babies should be killed. So King Herod was looking for the Messiah was born. He doesn't know who was it, so he wanted to kill them. So the family of Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, they flew to Egypt. But whereas in Luke, Egypt concept is not at all coming. They didn't talk about Egypt. Think about this one. Then who wrote this extra additional? Why would they wanted to write it in Matthew like they went into Egypt? Why didn't Luke? This is a big issue, because going from one country to another country. If that is a true, Luke should have recorded that one, but Luke didn't record that one. Look at that. Matthew was born in Bethlehem, Judea, and they had fled to Egypt when Herod, plot to kill Jesus. When they returned from Egypt, they tried to go back to Bethlehem, but due to the security issues, because Herod's sons was there, and he was trying to still, exercising the order or the command which was put by his father Herod. So they were afraid to go back to Bethlehem, so they went into Nazareth. So they fled from Bethlehem to Egypt, from Egypt to Nazareth. This is the travel mark of Matthew. Look at this Luke. If you think that Luke is completely, it's going to blow your mind, the Luke story. Luke, in 156, you can read that one, when Luke gives a total different account. Mary, after pregnant, she went from Nazareth to Galilee, hill country, to visit John the Baptist, the parents of the John the Baptist, Elizabeth and Zechariah, right? According to Luke in 156, Mary stayed at least 3 months there in that place. So after in these 3 months, how did Mary went by herself? Why Joseph was not accompanying him? There is no account of Joseph was given when Mary was going to the hill country of Judea to see John the Baptist family, right? So no account for Joseph at all here. I don't know where did he go. And after 3 months, when she came back to Nazareth from Galilee, Luke chapter 2, Caesar Augustus, like he was ordered to do the citizenship counting, he was doing the citizenship, but the citizenship counting was not mentioned in Matthew. It is mentioned only in Luke. So Caesar Augustus putting an order to do this one. So what happened then? So they flew back to where again to Bethlehem in Judea. It was in Jerusalem that Mary gave birth to Jesus. In Luke 2:22 says that when again they took Jesus for the purification right in Jerusalem. They went to Jerusalem back. I say Nazareth to Bethlehem and Galilee, and again to Jerusalem, and then again back to Nazareth. Luke, after that purification, returned to Nazareth in the Galilee. Mary traveled from Nazareth to Judea, back to Nazareth, back to Judea to Bethlehem, then to Jerusalem, then back to Nazareth, and they never ever traveled to Egypt at all. This is the Luke's version. Matthew says that they went to Egypt. Here he says, Luke, they never went to Egypt. Think about these folks. Why these differences? Why these contradictions? Why who didn't like who? Because of course, Luke wrote the book after Matthew wrote his book, right? So Luke has all the opportunity to change or to not to change or to do anything he wants to, but he made this book very elaborated with so many informations putting in there, but completely, totally away from Matthew's account at totally at all. So you know what? So um, real hometown of Jesus, Bethlehem, according to the Matthew, in they wound up in Nazareth only to escape, that Herod's jurisdictions, right? Luke, on the other hand, makes it sound like Nazareth was the hometown of Jesus. They wound up in Bethlehem because of his, census. Matthew never mentions any census at all. Luke never mentioned about Herod wanting to kill Jesus on all any two. I mean, the children of under 2 years. Matthew mentioned, Magi's, like coming from the east, all these, wise men, right? He used to worship newborn king when they bring gold and incense and all the other stuffs. Luke never mentions wise guys either. Look at this one. Matthew makes another story of these wise men, and Luke, no wise men, where they went. But Luke tells something about the shepherds were staying outside in the dark night, when and then the Luke's chapter only, it talks about the Jesus was wrapped up in sackcloth, and then he was in the manger he was kept. Only the Luke gives that account, whereas Matthew doesn't give this account that Jesus was wrapped up with a cloth and then put it in the manger. No account from Matthew, but Luke gives this account. So common things are usually, see, think about this one. How many differences you see in both Matthew and in both Luke? If a gospel, if a account of story, if you want to tell anything, if you want to talk about your gods or anyone, it should be unique to maybe to at least to believe it, right? So it's all about believable. It's all about the faith. It's all about the hope. Why these many differences? Why one is not giving the account? As I said, that those days, when they were writing all these things, they didn't have the sophisticated internet system or internet. There are so many things that Chat GPT or your voice recorders or nothing was there on those days, right? So it was so difficult. All were scribed, and there were scribes. Paid scribes were there by their scribing, and the scripture, the books were like circulating in the towns, and if they need one more additional, they have to pay for the scribe to write it, and it's an expensive one. Book writing was very expensive on those days. Only rich people could do this. Rich people could afford this one to make sure that they want a copy of it, and normal people, they didn't get a chance or opportunity to learn all these things. So um, Luke, had all the Greek cultures, everything was included in this one, and all about the gods and goddesses and how there are so many things were influenced for the author to write such a book called Luke. So, folks, you think about this one. Go ahead and find yourself. Just take a little time, and see why is that. Why the gospels are not equal. It's like why they're not talking the same thing with the same instant and same events. Why there are so many changes. We got to ask this one. Otherwise, we'll be blindly believing something, and you'll be worshiping, blindly, which may not be true, which may not be correct, and then we might be violating the commandments. So this is what I'm telling folks. Go and read. There is only one God. If you see that, my starting song will have this: one God, one nation, one world, one word, one worship, and one temple. So it is always one. As there is only one God in the world. Only one in the creation is from one point, one God, and that's it. Not many people or many gods or many denominations or many divisions. No, not at all. There should be only one God. So you need to find that one God. Who is that? You need to ask yourself. You need to go and have a thirst on that one, because nowadays it's going to be a very, very difficult future is waiting for us, and there are a lot of technological advancement. A lot of things are happening right now around the world and around us, and it is better for us to be prepared for ourselves and know things up. And we do not know how the future is going to be for the young kids here, and there are so many things, folks. I cannot tell everything, but at least I'm trying to give you this one. Look at this. Just because somebody wrote some book, and people think that these books were compiled by some Nicene council or not at all. New Testament is not compiled by Nicene council or any other councils. Nothing. No, it's not. So don't think that it is kind of organized pattern, or it's kind of standardizing. No, not at all, folks. Not at all. So logically think, we are following somebody. Sometimes someone told us to follow, and we follow. We have faith. We have belief. We don't want to get out of that system. That's a problem. It's up to you. You don't want to get out of the system. But I encourage you to go yourself and seek the Word of God, read the Word of God, and understand why is that one. Ask your God to help you out. Then you will find one day whatever I said was right. And yes, there should be only one God. That's God Hashem. There's no other God. You will definitely accept this one. I have a lot of lot of confidence in that one. So all right, guys, and I appreciate you listening all these things, and may God bless you. God be with you. Shabbat shalom. Shavua tov. Take care. Bye bye.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נעשה בחפצו כל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ הכל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפץ הכל. אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה, והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת עשה וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת עשה בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת עשה בחפץ הכל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו